All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. This was an awful week. We're going to go through Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners, the market, the Fed, all this stuff. So huge amount of info to get through. How you doing, George?
I just put my poll up. Bitcoin is shit. And I can't believe, yes, only 26%. Dude, you said 70% no? Meaning it's a pain in my ass. That's what I'm saying. Not that, it's the, shit as in, actually, if I said it like this, Bitcoin is the shit. You might think that like, yeah, Bitcoin or Bitcoin is shit. I mean, it's one of those, it could go either way.
I'm just fact checking Sour Melon Gaming. I feel like that's not true. But if it is, let us know.
I will tell you what, I lost a half a Bitcoin this morning, Tom. I was watching it drink, because I moved it down to like 80,000. I had a little leverage on it. And I lost a half a Bitcoin. They bought down my loan.
So
it hurt.
That's a little liquidation. I mean, it's a lot. It's a little, but it's a lot.
Well, the good news is I'm averaged in really low on Bitcoin. It was nice to see all that paper money. Same with XRP. It's nice to see all the paper money. Hopefully it'll come back. But nothing's really changed in my world because I sold my stocks almost 3 weeks ago now.
Well, and I finally did do some buying this afternoon. I waited all week, so I'm not calling a bottom. I'm done calling the bottom. I mean, we got down to $80,524 today. I'm on the Coinbase chart on TradingView. So, we got an 80,000. That I just, as you got, those of you who watched the show know, I did not believe we would retest 80. Now, we talked about it and said, you know what, we can't, there's no way we can say it's impossible, right? With Bitcoin, it's a 35% pullback. So we get those, but I just didn't think we were going to get it. That's not what things looked like to me. And that's why you got to be careful, because the short term is toxic. And there's an awful lot of, there's $20 billion worth of people that found out what happens when you try and mass leverage this stuff in the short term. You just, the thing is, they can see it. So they're going to take you out. And they did. They took everybody out. And, I'm still playing the slow, steady, patient game. I'm not selling anything. I'm buying in small chunks. And if I get, I said if I get one more opportunity, I'll do it. So I waited till the end of the week. I did so today. And if I get another opportunity next week, because I got to tell you, I don't know where. I mean, where's this end, George? Where's the bottom?
I was trying to figure out why you bought today.
I only bought on the principle that I am going to dollar cost average in, because I don't know when the bottom is. I'm now assuming I'm going to get another chance to buy every week. And I was looking at some of the stocks, and it's like, boom,
Talkin Investing.
2 Fridays ago I bought, last Friday I bought, this Friday I bought, and it's like they just keep going. So I don't know. I don't know where the bottom is. Damn.
I think we're bouncing. So there's a story. Are you going to read about the story with the Epstein and all that? Are you going to talk about that?
I did not have that on my radar.
You do not have that in the radar of what I think is really destroyed Bitcoin right now is the Epstein list and the Epstein, what's going on with Congress and how people found out you could put a picture attached to your blockchain. And when you run a node, you can see it. You weren't going to talk about that?
All right.
It's all, what I just said is 100% factual. It's not untrue, by the way.
but it is
Does anybody here run a
disturbing.
node for Bitcoin? Hang on, and I'm almost done with the poll, so hang on, let me finish this poll. Bitcoin.
Sour Melon Gaming is calling a bottom at 72K. I don't like it, but I I mean, it's in play. There's no doubt about it. Gambit Beer is
50%. 50% isn't. I mean, is that 50%?
no, that still won't be 50%. Here, let's go to the. Not even close. So I got a line. I mean, my line's at 73.8, and then this yellow line at 69,000 is from November of 2021. That was the all-time high in the last cycle. So we only got one more stop along the way on my lines with my chart. You know, I'm sure there's other Fibonacci numbers and whatever the case may be, but if we go. I mean, if we go down to 72, that's 43%.
What's 50?
If we go to 50, we're going to take out 69,000. If we go to 50, that's this line right here at 63,138. That's a 50% pullback, 49.99.
Of course, after the fact. Everybody's always right after the fact.
I mean, we'll do a poll. Let's see what you got going right now.
Into the end of the year, and it looks like everybody thinks we're getting back to 100K. Or at least it started that way. Well, no, if you do, we got 62% think it's going to 100 or above. 60, no, 70, no.
Yeah, that's pretty healthy.
70%. That's good. Hang on, I got to take a phone call.
Bitcoin lower at that. I mean, I just think this reflects what's gone on in the last. No, this is Nightmare November. That's what I'm calling this. Because when you see what these things have done in November, it's unbelievable. And by these things, I mean the Bitcoin mining stocks. And by the Bitcoin mining stocks, I mean the high performance computing stocks to a large extent. So we know that most of these are both of those now. There's only one pure play Bitcoin mining stock left. And it's the one I usually forget about because it's brand new, ABTC, American Bitcoin. They are a 100% pure play Bitcoin play. They are not involved in high performance computing. They're not data centers. In fact, they're asset light. Their parent company hosts their machines. So they're just running a different equation than everybody else. I think their price seems weird. Their market cap versus their peers seems very strange to me. They have much less horsepower. They don't own it yet. They're above most of their peers in market cap. So that's a odd phenomenon to me. So go ahead, George.
Tom, Monday is a whole new world. Come Monday.
Fantastic.
No, I mean,
not
it's
that new world.
The ISO 222s kick off. It implements on either this week. It implements over this weekend. Let's put it that way. So when you say they're taking us out, you got all these ETFs coming in for XRP. This is a massive bull. Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I'm reading for a second here.
Yeah.
Catch up.
This is a hard deck drop. This is an Atlas drop. Is the what is it? The A1 Atlas drop. Dude, let's be honest. To me, the FUD that they have
Are
out
you,
there regarding Bitcoin right now
are you in
is
outer
amazing.
space right now?
Yeah, I am. Did my face go away?
No, I mean with your A1 Atlas.
Hey, hey, I have to Tom, this is like jump out a window type of day. You got to be funny.
Here's the thing. You're right. This was awful for Bitcoin. It was not great for most of the altcoins. Pulled way back. I did, one of the dollar cost averaging I did was in XRP. It was under $2. And it could keep going. I think it could get to $1.65.
It's my number. You heard it. You heard it. Yeah, I said that. I really feel it's coming.
There's a real strong line there, so it's entirely possible. But even though I think things are going to get worse, I'm not changing my plan. But I mean, it is what it is. You can see, let me get back a little bit into.
Does anybody run a node for Bitcoin here? Anyone? Node Bitcoin.
Drop in the comments if you run a Bitcoin node. So what my last line here before 73,800, and I hope we don't have to go there, but I'll tell you what, I had a line at 85,010, which goes back to November of 20. That's 1 year ago. So we are holding that line right now, but I no longer have any confidence. And I'll tell you, there have been a couple of examples, and this is why you always, this thing, this is how this works. That's how that works. This is how this, this is how this indicator works. And every time this does that, there are no perfect indicators. There are no perfect rules. And everything's just different, because I'll tell you, we had on this day right here, I talked about it. We had a really nice hammer candle, and we got, within a few dollars of a line of support. This is, and we turned green. So to me, this was like a really encouraging day. And that was actually the day of our members only live stream. And what happened from there? Red, red, red. And now we have another. So in other words, a hammer candle is you've got a long wick. And if the hammer's at the top, that's good news. If it's at the bottom, that's bad news. So we keep having these things that look like good news, but they keep not being good news. I mean, we're down. Get rid of those blobs. We are now down from the top from October 6th. So that's just a little over a month ago. Let's call it a month and a half ago, to be fair. To the bottom of today, that's 36%. Where we are right now, that's 30, let's call it 33%. So this is the biggest pullback we've had in years. There's a couple others that got to 30. They didn't get to 36. And that's why I say, I don't know if this is done. I mean, this is a bear market. And I'm going to go through a lot of other indicators, because everything is fear out there right now. Every headline, every article, everything. And I mean, tell me if you guys don't feel it. It's there. Every molehill is now a mountain that's unclimbable.
What is the fear and greed index? And for the first time ever, I got a lot of money and I didn't put it all in, and I'm so proud of myself.
Nicely done.
It seemed like the bottom, but I did put more in. But
so you did what I did. You dollar cost averaged, and you'll wait for.
And when I say I bought everything, I bought altcoins that you guys never even heard. I went nuts on altcoins, and I wish it could have just been a few more days later. But
well,
I've loaded up with the top like 20s.
the question is, right? I mean, congratulations for those of you who happen to pick the exact bottom, but trying to play that game. And that's why, like, I'm sitting here today going, I don't think it's the bottom, but I bought anyway because I'm just, that's my plan. But I'm going to show you some encouraging things, discouraging things, short-term, long-term. I mean, so our poll, what's Bitcoin going to be by the end of the year? We're almost at half of you think we're going to get to 100K, and really it's 71%, because 21% still think we're going to get to 150K by the end of the year. So that is pleasantly surprising to me. The last poll we had was very pessimistic, but 19% of you think we're going to finish lower than we are right now, and another 9% think we're going to just hang out here at 85,000.
It's actually pretty healthy, if you want to be honest.
That's the hard part about this. It's like, this seems catastrophic, but for Bitcoin, it's nothing. This is a 36% pullback, right? We've had 2 other 30% pullbacks in this bull run. We had 4 other 20% pullbacks past that. In the previous cycle, we had a 55% pullback. Right in the middle of the, massive blow off top, we dropped 55% for months. It seemed like it was the end. We went from 64,000 down to 29,000. And we bounced back and forth, bounced off of that 29,000 several times, and then we ran up to 69,000. So all the people who gave up or got liquidated on the way from 64,000 down to 29,000, they missed the other half, the good half, where we ran up to 69,000. And that's what's happening to a lot of people here. I'll go to a few articles. People are getting liquidated massively, and it's because they're playing the dangerous game of leverage or super leverage. And I just, listen, everybody's entitled to do whatever they want. This is not financial advice, but for me, it's just this super leverage. I consider 5x super leverage. People are 50xing leveraging, 100x leveraging. It's
haven't even 1x leverage, Tom.
Right.
I was upset with I think I was at like 35% leveraged.
This is what I'm saying, right? So you're not even right. You're not even at 2.
Right, yeah.
And there's people at 100. And the thing is, the smallest fractional move in the wrong direction, all your money's gone.
Oh,
and it's not margin call where you put some money in and then it comes back later. No, it's gone.
Yeah, no, I don't think Tom is calling me out because I'm not doing what Tom is doing. I'm actually taking a loan. So if it hits that point, I have to sell my Bitcoin, but I keep the other things that I bought.
Well, and that's not even a 2x leverage. That's less than a 2x.
Right.
I think for, experienced investors, if you want to buy, there's some leverage ETFs that are 2x. There's some 3x leveraged ETFs out there. There's some availability on margin depending on how your account is set up. So, all those things are fairly commonplace. But this thing, and you can't, although obviously with a VPN and you can do whatever you want, but technically in the United States, you can't do any of that leveraging. The 25x, 50x, 100x. But there's people on VPNs just doing it anyway. So, but the problem is, let me try and find one of these. They're getting crushed is the problem. I'll have to come back to it. I have several articles up about people getting liquidated. I just got to find them, but we'll find them as we go. Some weird activity shift directions, and I see somebody talking about Michael Saylor. I got there was a lot of news put out about strategy, which used to be Microstrategy. There's concerns. JP Morgan put out what I think is FUD out there. Michael Saylor kind of went back at him and said, no, that's not going to happen. So we'll go through all that. But Microstrategy, I actually looked at it very seriously today. Microstrategy, this is the 1-year anniversary of their peak. They were at $543 a year ago. They hit 170 today. They closed at $170.50 from $543. And remember, they've bought 150,000 Bitcoin in the middle. So this has been catastrophic for most of these treasury companies. But the question is, are they now oversold? This is very, very close to a 1 MNAV, which is that's the kind of the little rule of thumb with these treasury companies, which is basically their net asset worth, their Bitcoin minus their debt versus their market cap. So they're at about 1. They're a little over 1 right now. And, they were over 3. So the question is, and I didn't buy any, I don't own any. I did sell some at, $349. And now it's at $170. So, that's one of the only good pieces of my puzzle lately, because, we ran up to the moon, and like George was saying, you look at your account and but you got to stay grounded, because until you take those, whatever your plan is, execute your plan. And until you take profits, they're not real. So I had some high numbers I looked at, and I said, you know what, we'll see where all this ends. I've had low numbers I've looked at, and go ahead.
Sorry to bug. In this morning on X, I saw something where Strategy wasn't going to be able to trade or have Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Now,
there's something to that effect, or they had to change the type of classification of the company was.
Let me get to this is rumor and FUD, but I got that exact article because that's an important one.
Yeah, Strategy may get delisted, could trigger billions in forced selling.
And that is the ultimate in misleading super hype FUD, because here's what's really going on. And then Michael Saylor addressed this. Michael Saylor speaks out again as MSCI concerns mount. This is Morgan Stanley's index. So here you have JP Morgan coming out warning that there's the potential that the Morgan Stanley index, so a lot of index funds are based on MSCI. So a lot of ETFs, that kind of stuff, and on a potential exclusion. Now, the exclusion would be you can't just treasury a commodity. They don't allow that. But Michael Saylor has always said they have, a $500 million in revenue a year software company, and they're a real company, and they're doing something with Bitcoin that goes beyond just treasurying it. And this is total speculation on JP Morgan's part. Morgan Stanley has not come out and said that this is what they're going to do. They just see a window here and they say, you know what? It's possible. And if that happened, that means a lot of funds would drop MicroStrategy. They wouldn't have to get rid of their Bitcoin. Nothing like that would have to happen, but there would be a lot of funds that would likely drop holding MicroStrategy versus our expectation that we feel like they're about to get added to the S&P 500. Right, so that's a pretty big swing.
So I have a question, Tom. And hyperbole here, okay, for a second. Could this be just a fake story?
I think this is the definition to me. And again, it's my personal opinion. This is the absolute definition of FUD. And you can tell, look at them piling it on right now. I mean, everybody's already in extreme fear. And then they come out and start to say stuff like this. We're in pile on mode. We're in kick them while they're down mode right now. And there's just no doubt about it. You asked me earlier what the fear and greed index is. It's up. Yesterday it was 11. That's the second time it hit 11. Today it's 14. This is the crypto fear and greed index. But check this out. Here's the market overall. Commercial mode here. Okay. Fear and greed index. Extreme fear. This is for the equity markets. This is the overall fear and greed index by CNN. This is at 10. So we were at 11 yesterday on crypto. We're at 14 today. We're at 10 today on the market in general. People are in fear. This was in extreme fear down to 6 yesterday. That matches the lowest it's been in many years. I saved, I think I have this open. Yeah. On May 6th, 2025. Oh, wow. This got down to 3. And that was after the tariffs and everybody was in a panic and the market sold off and it was the end of the world. So May 6th, 1 month earlier, would have been April 6th. So that was the week that we crashed. The 7th, 8th, and 9th of April was the stock market crash. It was the cryptocurrency crash. Everything absolutely crashed. So it got down to an extreme fear of 3, which I haven't seen in years and years. And now we just yesterday got back down to 6. Extreme fear. And we're still only at 10 right now. So the fear is real. And this is when they pile the FUD on. Oh, are you afraid? Well, good. Guess what? More bad news. And speaking of more bad news, Red. Okay. Bitcoin market memory shaken. Bitcoin bounce zone broken in strategy like bear move. So this is an analysis on how they think Bitcoin is about to behave the way that strategy or MicroStrategy behaved. And it is because of one particular key support level that it has lost. And I'll just get to the punchline here. The 50-week simple moving average. So we have lost the 50-week simple moving average. Typically, I mean, by definition, that means things have accelerated to the downside. That's the only way to lose the 50-week moving average. So I personally believe this is a trailing indicator. A lot of people feel like, this is big trouble. This spells trouble ahead. And there is some evidence. If we go to the 1 day. So here's that 69,000 I talked about. This is Bitcoin. Sorry, this isn't the 1 day. This is the 1 week chart for Bitcoin. So this line back here is all the way back in November of 2021, the previous peak of the previous cycle. Right? You can see we were above this 50-day and it held as support here. It held as support here. We ran up to here. Once it broke down, it turned into resistance and we stayed below it for the rest of the entire crypto winter for 15 months. So this is the fear. Uh-oh, we just crossed this line. And we're in for 15 months of that. I would point out there's 2 or 3 times where it didn't do that. Every time we've gone into a crypto winter, it's done this. But every time it does this, we don't go into a crypto winter. Right? One's not the same as the other. And you can look on the 1 week, we're down to 35 on the RSI. I mean, those are some historically low levels. They're rivaling the bottom of the crypto winter right now. So I think this pullback, and this is what I kind of have talked about. This cycle is totally different in my opinion. And I don't think we're going to get 80% pullbacks anymore, but I do think we're going to have bear markets, and this is a very volatile asset, so it moves quickly. So as fast as we lost this, you can see we only lost this. This is last week, and this is this week. We're 2 weeks into this. Now, last time it went 15 months into a crypto winter, so a lot of people are afraid, uh-oh. I mean, we didn't just lose it. We're way below this line. So, are we going to sit here and tread water? Are we going to retest 69? Are things going to get worse before they get better? I just don't think. In the last time we had this, you had that whole, somebody drop in the comments in the chat. You're going to remember the name, and I don't right now, but the whole stable coin, which was never really a stable coin, that whole ecosystem collapsed. Everything went to zero. There was a chain reaction that caused one collapse after the next from basically, early to mid 2022 until FTX failed in November of 2022. So that was the bottom of the crypto winter. We double bottomed in November and December of 2022. That was the FTX situation, was the culmination of all the other things that were falling apart structurally. It was just it was a deluge of bad news. We're not having that right now. We're having a lot of fear type articles, but nobody, Coinbase is doing great. Robinhood's doing great. There's SoFi is implementing everybody's adopting cryptocurrency. And the adoption's in the early stages. So, yeah, you can have a bear market in the middle of that. You can have a pullback. This is a volatile asset. We get these all the time. And if you think the pullback in Bitcoin's bad, look, wait till we get to what happened this week with the Bitcoin miners and this month with the Bitcoin miners. November, I said it earlier, it's Nightmare November, because this is just, and it was all set up for us, because everybody in September, it was October. It was going to be October. October was going to be great. And then, October wasn't that great after all. But it's the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is gold. It's all good. Now, here we are, a little bit more than halfway through the fourth quarter, and we're getting wrecked. So, now, that doesn't mean we won't turn around. We do have some people that think we're going to go back up to 150 by the end of the year. We currently have a poll, no alt season this cycle, or the cycle is already over, ? This is a eye popper. So if you haven't voted, check that out. Vote. Those are some surprising numbers to me, but vote what you think, right? It's not what I think or George thinks. Everybody's got to do what they think.
But if you think about it, with the ETFs kicking off for XRP, I mean, you would think, executives or people, that are higher than executives. I don't know. What are they? A-suite? Are they A?
C-suites.
A-level?
Oh, above the C-suite, there's a couple of floors there.
Above the C-suite. What's above the C-suite? B-suite? A billion. I guess it is a billionaire suite. I mean, if they're in the power of knowing what's going on, and they know that they can take and dump some Bitcoin and get all the other altcoins to get destroyed, right? And then you look, the ETFs kick in next week. This just seems like standard operating procedure. This doesn't seem like not standard operating procedure. I was told I can't give any predictions, Katie. Join our channel if you want predictions. That's what I told Tom. We talked about it. Only thing I can tell you is Bitcoin bad right now. Bitcoin bad. Bad Bitcoin.
Yes, and Katie, I also have SoFi. It's acting a little irrationally lately, but I'm not scared about it. Let's look at what the Bitcoin miners did this week. Let's go to that.
I gotta get a trash can next to me in case I puke.
You want to go take? We did get some data. We got some data, and let's go through that first, and then we'll get to what the Bitcoin miners did. So let's do those two things in a row. We got the jobs numbers, and we have been through a roller coaster in the last 2 days, and I think we're coming out of the other end in a better place, but it's way too soon to talk about that. So let's talk job numbers. The U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics is open. You guys remember the government was shut down, the longest shutdown in history. It was like 42 days, 44 days, whatever it was. So they only they came back to work for 1 day, put one number out, which was CPI, because Social Security and that kind of stuff gets adjusted based on that. So they had to do that one thing. Other than that, everyone in this department was sent home for over 40 days. Well, they've reopened. They now have given us the unemployment or the employment numbers for September. Remember, it's November 21st right now. Guess what? They're not going to do October. They're going to do October and November together on December 16th. So let me just read that. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics will not publish an October 2025 unemployment situation news release. So that's what we got today. That's what we normally get every month for the last decades and decades. But we shut the government down. Establishment survey data for October 2025 will be published with the November 2025 data. Household survey data were not collected for the October 2025 reference period due to a lapse in appropriations and will be extended and will not be collected retroactively. For both surveys, the collection period for November 2025 data released for the November 2025 is scheduled to be published on Tuesday, December 16th. So that's basically a month from now. We're going to get October and November. I will tell you, first, people were excited about these job numbers. I don't think this is a great jobs report. And at first, it looked like the initial knee-jerk reaction to this was, bang, this is what the Fed was looking for. Now they're not going to raise, they're not going to cut rates. This was their missing piece of the puzzle. But I think people looked a little deeper and realized that is not correct. Total non-farm payroll employment edged up by 119,000 in September, but shows little change since April. The unemployment rate's at 4.4%. So that continues to creep up. And that number was much lower. This is the highest it's been in years. So let me go take a look at what the comps and expectations were. So this is from CNBC. The late September job report shows U.S. added 119 jobs, more than expected. Unemployment rate at 4.4. The unemployment rate edged higher to 4.4%, the highest it's been since October of 2021. That's 4 years ago. So this is the worst unemployment rate in 4 years. Average hourly earnings increased 0.2%. And September up from 4,000 jobs lost in August. By the way, that was a revision. So they revised, I think the previous 2 months they revised down. Here we go. The July total was revised down to 72,000, a decrease of 7,000. But the August report, I think, went from positive here. There's a chart here. Was revised down 26,000 jobs in August, and then another 7 in July. So that's a revision of 33,000 down. Now we got a really nice number in September. We're going to get October and November at the same time. You're going to get revisions upon revisions, and the unemployment number is not heading in a good direction. So I don't think there's anything to. Here's the chart. Like, does this look like the good part of the jobs chart? It doesn't to me. 3 of the 4 worst months in the last 4 years are right here. May, June, and August. We lost jobs in 2 of those months. Minus 13, minus 26,000. Or minus 4,000, but it was a revision down of 26,000. So this is not trending in the right direction. This is not cover for the Fed. And here's what happened. There was an initial, if I can find the article. If not, I'll just go to
In shoulders time.
This came out yesterday. Fed December rate cut odds collapse. They had been around 50-50, and we've been talking about 50-50 is no good. Actually, 50-50 is like the worst case scenario. That's absolute uncertainty. And what's the one thing that the market doesn't like is uncertainty. So this 50-50 thing was bad news. Well, if it could get worse, it did, because yesterday the Fed Watch tool went down to a 30% chance of a rate cut. So that was the knee-jerk reaction to this jobs report. But here's the thing. Look what's happened since then. If I go right now, it's almost 70%. So digesting this one day, it closed the day at 39% yesterday. It got as low as 30%. By the way, a month ago, this was at 98%. 1 month and 10 days ago, this was at 100%. And it got down to 30 midday yesterday, and now it's up to 70. So I think we're going to get a rate cut. And then on top of that, you had Bitcoin bounces above 84 as Fed's Williams puts December rate cut back on the table. Previously having essentially written off chances of further monetary ease in 2025, interest rate traders are now pricing more than a 70% chance of a rate cut at the Federal Reserve December meeting. New York Fed President John Williams said Friday, there's still room to adjust policy in the near term, putting a potential rate cut in the December back on the table. So there was another Fed member that came out today with similar comments. So that's 2 members of the Fed that I think tried to ease the market and say, oh, hold on, don't misinterpret that jobs report. We very well you may get your rate cut in December just like you want.
Maybe that's who sold all their Bitcoin. The Trumps. Oh, you won't give it to? I'll show you, mother hacker.
That's right. And unfortunately, I mean, there's nothing the president can do about this. Well, there is something. Next May, there will be a transition, and the president does appoint this position, but they don't supervise, manage it. They can't hire, they can't fire. So then that person then goes and does what they want. Now, Trump's probably going to find somebody of like mind. Trump thinks the interest rates should be significantly lower than they are right now. I happen to agree with that strenuously. And So we'll see. That's not until next May, but I do think we're going to get some rate cuts in between now and then because, like you're just seeing right here, you got the New York Fed chair saying it's on the table. So that changed. This thing jumped from 30% to 70%.
Is that the guy who didn't agree with it last time?
I don't know if he was the dissenting vote. Last time there were 2 dissenting votes, and they were in opposite directions. We did a 25 basis point rate cut at the last meeting. There was one dissenting vote that wanted to do a 50 basis point rate cut. There was another dissenting vote that didn't want to do any rate cut. So that's pretty unusual to have 2 dissenting votes and have them be in the opposite direction.
Was it Lisa Cook? Cooked?
I don't.
It's an inside joke. It's really inside.
Way inside. So you can see
There's people that know it.
I'm just jumping back to the 15-minute because we're fighting this red line. And, this resisted. This is on the 15 minutes, so this is very short terms. Resisted. This is all today. We're just hanging out. If we could get above this line, if we could close the day above this line, I'd be encouraged. Having said that, this is exactly what I said on Tuesday. We did close the day above the line I was looking at, and we cascaded down from there. So, Sour Melon Gaming, Bitfarms will go to under $1. Watch. Reverse stock split. Oh, Sour Melon Gaming, you've been waiting to put that back on the table. I bought some options today for Bitfarms. So, that's all I can tell you.
Did you really?
I did.
You're crazy, man.
They have pulled back so stupidly. They ran up very, very ridiculously. They overshot, but now they've overshot to the low side. And so let's go take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did because we said we would do that next. All right. This is this week. TeraWolf up 3%. CIFR down 1%. BitDR down 2%. BitDR's been one of the worst stocks all year. This last week, these 3 did okay. Bitcoin was down 10% this week. That's one of the worst weeks I can ever remember. It has to be one of the worst weeks in years. So, Bitfarms down 6%, Hut 7, Riot 9, IREN 9, CleanSpark 11, Hive 13, Marathon 16, which is why I bought some Marathon today. I think Marathon is wildly oversold. We're going to take a look at year to date. So, and that doesn't mean I think they're the best Bitcoin miner or the best AI play. I just think that they're now like the 7th or 8th or 9th highest market cap out of all of these companies. There is no sense to that. They were by far the largest market cap for every single month for 2 full years. And now 7 or 8 of these companies are bigger than them? I don't think so. That's my opinion. So I think from a market cap standpoint, you're looking at a company that's way oversold. And from a stock price standpoint, their stock price has gotten hammered. It's down 16% this week. So that's this week. Ugly. This month, very ugly. Bitcoin's down 23% in November, and every single Bitcoin miner is doing worse. BitDR's down 54% in November, which is why I bought some BitDR today. Again, all of this is not financial advice. I'm just simply telling you what I'm doing. As it continues to slide, I'm buying more. Some of you might think BitDR is on its way to 0. I think it's oversold. And I think the charts for the Bitcoin miners are a little more encouraging than the charts for Bitcoin. Although, I said that a week ago, and we had one of the worst weeks of all time. So the short term prediction game is we try to stay away from it as much as we possibly can. These are longer term decisions. And these stocks may not be buy and hold for the rest of your life. They've been cyclical in nature really since the inception of Bitcoin with the 4-year cycle. But I do believe this time is different for two reasons. Number one, I think the 4-year cycle is going to get extended to 5 or 6 years. And number two, we've had massive Bitcoin adoption. Bitcoin is something different than it was in any previous cycle, in my opinion.
Did you look at any of the ETFs for Bitcoin, Tom? Do you have any of those up?
Here, yeah, it's been a mass exodus. Let me see if I can find the article first and then.
Yeah, I don't know who NBIS is. Tom?
That might be one of the treasury companies. We'll take a look. What's the comment?
Oh, it's a miner. It says, don't forget the one miner that isn't really a miner. NBIS, full stack, autonomous driven, partnered with Uber, ClickHouse.
We'll
You're
take a look
definitely
at them.
missing.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they're not. If they're not a Bitcoin miner, this was. And I understand we're evolving here. These are now Bitcoin / high performance computing, but to some extent, and I do have HUT on here still because
Thank you, sir.
they are a 65% majority owner of a straight Bitcoin mining company. So while they don't do it directly, they host all the machines and they own 65% of, one of the big Bitcoin mining companies. So I left them on. But like companies like BTBT, they quit. They got rid of all their machines. They sold all their Bitcoin. They borrowed a bunch of money, bought Ethereum, and they're an Ethereum treasury company now. So that's it. They're not the only ones that are going to quit. So at some point, we talked about, I think a lot of these companies are going to shift gears, and some of them have already started turning their Bitcoin machines off. I think there's more to follow. And I think by the next halving, at least half of these companies will have decided, you know what, I'm better off with all of my power resources in high performance computing than I am in Bitcoin. That's what I think. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean they're going to crash. Quite the opposite, right? We've got now, that's a third variable for the Bitcoin mining stocks. They have a new stream of revenue that is small right now, but in 2026, it's going to get a lot bigger. And by 2028, the majority of these companies, the majority of their income is going to be from high performance computing, even if they're still one of the largest Bitcoin miners out there, because there's just so much more revenue available with the same amount of gigawatts. Now, there's different infrastructure that's required, but if you already have your power agreements out for 10, 20, 30 years, you've already got lines pulled to your data centers built, all you've got to do is retrofit them. That's a small piece of the puzzle versus a company saying tomorrow, I'm going to go buy some green field and build a data center. You could be 2 or 3 years away from plugging a machine in on that trajectory. So November, BitDR 54%. It's a nightmare. CleanSpark 45%. I mean, Marathon 45%. Right. And these are two of the HODL companies now. So there's some sense Bitcoin's way down. So these are down even worse because they have big stacks. Riot is the other one that has a big stack. HUT has a big stack, but none of these are doing well. And a lot of these had some nice announcements in November. I'll go right now to CIFR. This is not the biggest announcement in the history of time, but it adds on to what they've been doing, CIFR Mining signs an additional 56 megawatt 10-year AI hosting agreement with FluidStack. Contract secures $830 million of revenue in 10 years. So this is why I'm saying, look at this company. 56 megawatts of power, $830 million over 10 years. So that's $83 million a year. If you were running Bitcoin mining machines on 56 megawatts, it would be some small fraction of that number. So, and this is a small fraction of the contracts that they already have. This is on top of, they just raised $1 billion. In fact, they put out another thing. This was yesterday. CIFR Mining announces pricing of $333 million of additional senior secured notes. So altogether, they've issued $1.733 billion in aggregate principal this month. So that's going to pay for a lot of data center infrastructure, and that's what they're going to do with it. And a lot of companies raised money, but none of them did it through at-the-market offerings. The at-the-market offerings for the Bitcoin miner era is ended. A lot of them are trying to do straight debt or convertible debt, at a higher number years down the road. So you're seeing a lot of that. And as they ramp up this infrastructure, IREN got a $10 billion contract. And that contract was for 5 years. So that's just under $2 billion a year. And that was only 200 megawatts. So again, most of these companies are scaling up 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts, 3 megawatts. Some have plans to go beyond that. Gigawatts, 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt, 3 gigawatts. And even with just 200 megawatts, you're talking about $2 billion of revenue a year. What is IREN going to look like when they've got 3 gigawatts of data centers running? And by the way, the demand is already there. Everyone up and down the supply chain. I'll just tell you, NVIDIA reported earnings. We talked about this on the members only stream. And once again, they beat. This is not rocket scientists. They are selling the most sought after product on the face of the earth, and it's not even close. Nothing's in second place. So they're backlogged. They're sold out of some of their things completely. So they beat on revenue, they beat on profit, and they raised their forecast. And odds are high that they're being conservative even on raising their forecast, because this is, they do this every quarter. They beat on revenue and they beat on income every quarter. They're minting money over there. That is not a stock that, whether it's peaked and it's a little bit overvalued, you guys can decide. But that's not a stock. They're at like a 40-something PE. That's not crazy time for a company that has the most sought after product on the face of the earth. So, but what's that mean? Where's all these chips going? Every single time they sell a chip, it's going to end up in a data center requiring power, which is what all of these companies are building. So this is the ultimate list of picks and shovels play on high performance computing, AI, whatever you want to call it.
This is for sour. the next poll.
IREN to 106 months. That one just ended. So 56% say no. That's funny because everybody was on board. That we did that vote a month ago, and it was overwhelmingly yes. And now it's skewing towards no.
This is for you, Sour.
Hey, listen, I'm laughing, but it's been there before. Bitfarms was 68 cents in the middle of the year this year. It pulled almost a 10x in a few months. So that's why I say it was overbought. We talked about it on the channel. Every single one of these stocks was overbought. So if you were swing trading and getting in and out of these, there was the day where it was fairly obvious everything was about to have a big pullback. All the RSIs were 75, 80, 85, 90, somewhere, at 90 for a couple of weeks. It's like, what's next. We know what's next. We just don't know how long it's going to last.
And I sold right then, and it went right up, and I felt like such an idiot. Like, I sold, and then it went even higher. I'm like, I'm such an idiot. And then I'm not an idiot.
No, because then it went in the other direction beyond belief. Sour Melon saying Bitfarms will get bought out. I mean, they had an offer at $2.30 that I thought was laughable. That's just my opinion. They have restructured. If you look at what Bitfarms has done to their company now, they're back in a situation where they are going to have to execute operationally. But if they do what they said they're going to do, they've got all everything under contract. They have the power supply. They have the capability to have a massive turnaround and be a highly profitable company. And they are leaning into the high performance computing power portion of this in a big, big way. They're not buying any more Bitcoin miners. They have less Bitcoin miners today than they did 6 months ago. They're turning them off, the older ones. And that's one of those companies where I would not be surprised if they just keep turning them off until the halving in 2028 and say, it's been nice Bitcoin, but it's time, we're an AI company now. We're a power company. We're a high performance computing company. And I think you're going to see several of these companies do that. We can do a poll on that. Let me know if you guys think differently. I think there's a few companies that are built to last in the Bitcoin mining world, and a bunch of these are just better off going the other way. They're too far behind, and there's so much more revenue for them. Now, all of this, whether you're a Bitcoin miner or a data center, it's very CapEx heavy. So they're going to have to borrow money. They've all borrowed money. They used to just dilute us into oblivion, which everybody hated. So message was finally received, and it's been a couple of years now since the mass dilutions. First quarter of 2024, I think, was the last round of massive dilutions from everybody. And a lot of these companies have done very little to no stock dilution since then.
How often do you think hedge funds meet with CEOs of different companies and have some type of presentations of that we're not privy to, or is there such a thing or no?
I don't think so. I think what they're supposed to do and what they do, we'll all never know what the answer to that is. But they're playing a different game than we are. They're playing it to scale way beyond. I don't care if you're the richest person on here. You have 1/1000th or 1/1,000,000th of what these hedge funds monies are playing with. And, depending on the hedge fund. So they're market makers.
from dream takers.
NBIS. We need to look at what this is. Technology company engaging in building full stack infrastructure to serve the global AI. Okay, so they're a data center company. In the Netherlands, Europe, North America, and Israel, the company offers Nebius builds full stack infrastructure for AI, including large scale GPU clusters. This is a $20 billion market cap. So it would be interesting. So therefore, I'm going to do it to look at what their revenues are, because that's bigger than the biggest Bitcoin miner / hyper AI. The biggest stock we have in our stock list is IREN, and that was down to $13 or $14 billion. And then there's a massive drop off from there. Let's just go to that list, and we'll get back to this here. Now, this information is a little old. This is October 14th versus November 14th, but things have not gotten better. It's gotten worse. So a month ago is the blue numbers. You'll see all the blue numbers are higher than the red numbers, which is 1 week ago. So over the last month, when we just saw it, these have gotten taken out. I mean, IREN went from 18.7 billion to 13 billion. And if I go there right now, $11.9, so $12 billion. That's our biggest stock. IREN at $12 billion is by far the biggest stock in the Bitcoin mining universe. And here's NBIS at $20 billion. So I'll cheat and look at it this way, but we might want to go later look at their real financials. Yeah, $363 million. Now, I don't know what contracts they've signed. I don't know what's going on here. Obviously, this used to be a company of a completely different nature 4 years ago, so they've changed what they do because they had very different numbers then. Massive losses. So I don't know. I would have to do a deep dive on this. It looks like it's a data center company. You know, there's a lot of, it's not fair to look at the trailing 12 months of revenue, because a lot of these data center companies, they've been signing their contracts over the last 18 months. The revenue hasn't even started to come yet. 2026 is going to be a big revenue year for a lot of these companies because the contracts are already up and running. The data centers are already done. Machines are getting turned on. So we're about to get into the revenue phase of this process, which is why I think these are going to be good companies to hold. Right? And instead of in the past, this being the time to dump all your Bitcoin miners because the 4-year cycle is over, I think we're kind of living in an opposite world now.
Okay, I'm doing another pull. This is an easy one. Strategic reserve before the end of the year. And I'm going to put 4 BTC or others.
You just set up the next story.
See, I'm telling you, Tom and I really show prep time. It's been good.
Spot on. So this is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. U.S. House bill would allow federal taxes in Bitcoin while aiding U.S. reserve. So here's what's going on. Representative Warren Davidson introduced legislation that allows Bitcoin tax payments without incurring capital gains to beef up the U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve. So what they're talking about doing is you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. If that Bitcoin's had a massive gain, let's say it's 100x'd, You don't have to pay any capital gains on it if you're using it to pay your taxes, and it's going to go into the strategic reserve. So this is not a done deal. It's on the table. Introduce the Bitcoin for America Act to allow federal tax payments in Bitcoin without capital gains liability. So that is massive, because think of all of the people that have monumental built-in capital gains in their Bitcoin. Right? People that bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, their capital gains are off the charts. The bill aims to direct BTC tax payments to the proposed U.S. strategic reserve. So there you go, George. This isn't a done deal, but President Trump's executive order authorized the reserve, but its establishment likely requires further congressional action. So how do we get money in there? This would be a really easy way to get a lot of money in there, because I'm just going to tell you right now, a lot of people that would not have otherwise sold their Bitcoin, if they can do so tax free, sell $1 million of Bitcoin, maybe the 900,000 of its profit, and you're going to pay no taxes on it. Pay no capital gains. So we'll see if this happens, but I mean, that would be a jump start.
I can tell you one thing. I think it really just depends on when you get into Bitcoin, because this ain't even phasing me what's happening. I'm not even like,
Just pull back.
no, it's just this is Bitcoin. This is what Bitcoin does. And Sauer, you said it hasn't gone down $46,000 in 3 weeks. It's all percentages, though. I think you shouldn't get, too focused on the numbers. It's the percentages. I mean, Bitcoin,
Right, because it's never been at 126,000, right? If
Right.
it did that at 69,000, that would be catastrophic.
I mean, look at what we said was 69,000, and it went to 15.
Yeah, 15.5 from 69.
15.5? Yeah, from 69. I mean, I personally, I think we got a lot more time left. This is still an opportunity. I think what we're doing is seeing a fundamental shift in the whole world's economy and switching over to crypto.
That's what we're looking at. How much adoption is there going to be? How fast is it going to happen? We've seen one piece of, whether it's legislation, whether it's the SEC going from viciously attacking all things cryptocurrency to embracing cryptocurrency. ETFs now have a fast track plan, so you're going to have crypto ETFs all over the place. Spot ETFs where they hold the cryptocurrency. XRPs went online, and they've got some more coming online. Having said that, XRP is not doing great. Nothing is. If we go look here.
It's funny because I think it's doing fantastic personally.
Well, it's providing a buying opportunity. If you believe that it's going higher, it's down to $1.93. So that's a significant pullback, but that's what these things do. They're volatile.
How many halvings? 3. This will be my 1, 2, 3rd. This will be my 3rd one. No, I'm not. No, what I'm saying, this is not out of the norm of what Bitcoin does. I personally don't think that the bull market's over with. I think that this is just a way to slap us bitches around. I'm not saying I didn't get hurt. I lost a half a Bitcoin.
It's just a statistical fact. This is well within the realm of what Bitcoin does in a bull market. Again, the last bull market here, we'll go to the 1 week and look at it. In the last bull market, right, look at this is September of 2020. So from December of 2020 to December of 2020, you can see all of a sudden Bitcoin started to go parabolic. Well, it went from 10,000 to 64,000. But what happened next? That's a 56% pullback. Zoom in on that. From April to July, 56%. We're at 36% right now. Actually, we're at 32% right now. So if everybody had panicked, I mean, look at these two red candles. These are monsters. If you panicked here, or you waited and it was another week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks later, things were still going sideways and you're thinking, this thing's over. And then bam, from 30,000 to 69,000. So I think, you could have one of these. You could absolutely, we always have these. You could have, there's examples of times where we just go sideways for 2 months, 4 months, 7 months, whatever it is. But I don't think this is the beginning of our descent into a crypto winter. That's just my personal opinion. Do that poll.
Yeah. What do you want?
So this one's pretty close too. Are we moving into a crypto winter? Right, so you can see, like, these are bad weekly candles. We lost the 50-week moving average last week. That was a big red candle, only to have another big red candle this week. Now today, we were at $80,524. We're at $84,500 right now. So we're up $4,000 already today from the bottom. Now we could very easily go retest this and go to lower and lower and lower numbers, right? We've played this out.
So his honor, he asked me a question, how did I lose a half a Bitcoin? I had it leveraged and I didn't really lose anything. It just paid off the loan. So I had to recast I did 82,000 for my liquidation point. And I knew it was going there and I was in the process of putting more money to get it lower. But that's not what my average was in Bitcoin. My average of Bitcoin is probably less than 50,000. So it just sucks to see it go away. So I didn't really lose anything. And now my liquidation point is like 71,000 or something like that. So if it goes below 71,000, either it's going to sell another coin or. It's funny, Tom. When it went below 100, I said to Beck, I probably should sell right now. For some reason, I think everything's going to get destroyed. Of course, I didn't do that, but that's what I was convinced was going to happen. And look what happened.
Well, here we are on the 1-day RSI. We're at 22.8. That is historic levels of oversold. Now, again, no one indicator is correct all the time, so this could get worse. Typically, this would be a raging sign that you are bouncing off of a year or multi-year bottom for Bitcoin. But who knows? This could last for another 2 weeks.
doesn't the 1st of December, isn't that when they're starting quantitative easing again, Todd?
That's right. Well, they're stopping quantitative tightening. By extension, they're going to have to start quantitative easing, and actually, they've really already started it. There's just fear right now. There's just fear. You can see it. We've got some people in the chat that definitely think, the sky is falling and the run is over. And you know what? Maybe 3 months from now, we'll be talking about how they were right. I don't think so. That's my opinion. And the opportunity, on the other hand, I mean, it's almost 50% run up to get back to where we were, to retest all-time highs. So, if you're dollar cost averaging in, and this is where I'm going to go to a different chart. This is why I'm buying Marathon. Look at Marathon. I got a red line. This is their lowest RSI they've ever had on the 1-day time frame, is this red line, and they're on it right now. 20. They're at 21. So to me, and they're bouncing off a line of support. They hit it almost perfectly here today. The last time they hit this support, they ran from under $10 up to $23. Now, it took a long time, but I think that's what's going on with Marathon right now. Could be wrong. That's not what I wanted to show you, though. Here, this is the Bitfarms chart. So remember, this was just a month ago. Bitfarms was at it hit a high of $6.60 on October 15th. It hit 68 cents in June. That's a 10x. Right? $6.80 would have been an exact 10x. So, yeah, has it had a massive pullback since then? But if you my point was, if you kept dollar cost averaging all the way along, right, you had all of this time where Bitcoin or Bitfarms was under $1. All this time it was under $1. So my dollar cost average in Bitfarms is only a little over $1 because I DC8, but I've been dollar cost averaging in for years into that. And, though I chose a couple, this was one in the crypto winter. I only chose a couple to just heavily dollar cost average into. They were CleanSpark, which was in the $3 range, and Bitcoin, which at one point, or Bitfarms, got down to 37 cents. So this is the land of volatility. I guess that's my point. If you go, if you took this run, that's 800% up. Now, at the end of this run, if you took this run, you can feel awful if you want. That's 63% down. But what are you really? Just from this June, you're up 228%. If you held Bitfarms in June and you hold it today, you're up 228%, despite a 63% pullback. This is the type of volatility you have to be able to live with if you're going to trade these stocks, because the market manipulates these beyond comprehension.
I just looking at the total of the market cap of crypto, it's very troubling to me.
let's go. Let me go to that because I knew that would have your attention.
I was just like, what the heck?
We are now under $3 billion
Yeah.
in market cap. We were over, trillion. We were over 4 trillion. Now we're under 3 trillion. Refresh and see if we're even lower than that, just a little bit. So, I mean, this has been a big pullback. That's a big pullback. And the last week, look, Bitcoin's down 11, Ethereum's down 12.5, XRP's down 15, BNB, which never does this kind of stuff, it's down 10, Solana's down 9. I don't know why. Tron 5.7, Lido 13, Doge 12.7, Cardano down 20%. I don't even know what this is. This is the number 12 by market cap. It's worth $14 billion. And I never heard of it. Figure HELOC? I don't know. You guys tell me.
Guys, you need to be honest with me on this poll. I need to find what is it? A short peer and a long run.
Well, you can see there's a few outliers. But
oh my goodness, guys. Stop it. Ouch. Oh my goodness. Stop voting. At the poll.
We're hitting
the damn poll.
We're hitting zeros here. Is that?
Oh my God.
Come on, somebody. I can't vote. I'm not allowed to vote. So I would vote yes, just to support the poll. But it's going to be very hard to get to 5.8 trillion.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, it seemed like a no-brainer 2 or 3 months ago that we were going to be at $5.8 trillion. And I think this poll would have had the reverse numbers 3 months ago. But now,
I mean, I'm. You guys, please vote. This is important to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. This is what people think, and you guys know you're the ones who are in this part of the market, so you know better than the rest.
Right. We're in this crazy world of crypto. Oh, General, you didn't see that. You didn't hear. I got options that expired on the 14th. I did covered calls on CleanSpark. And man, did I look smart. Damn, did I look good.
That's all just money in the bank.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I went nuts. I said, you know what? It's time to make some money. And I sweated it for a minute. But
listen, we have some people that are optimistic. We have some people that are very pessimistic in the comments section. Tom Lee was bearish on CNBC yesterday. Wow. That's from Sour Melon Gaming. He said, I was shocked. I am shocked too. I don't think I've ever heard him be bearish. He is the permabull of all time. But let me give you a reason why he might have been little bearish.
Holy smokes, look at this poll, Tom. 40%, 40 people voted, 90% no.
90% no. That is, keep voting. That's not going our way. So Tom Lee, this article came out today. Bitmine Immersion, which is his company, publicly traded company, but he's the main guy, is sitting on a $4 billion loss on Ethereum bet. As analyst warns of structural issues, Tom Lee's company could trap shareholders amid low stake yields, hefty embedded fees, and vanishing NAV premium. So that's that net asset value premium we were talking about, where we saw MicroStrategy go from over 3 to just about 1. So that's a dramatic drop off. I don't think it makes sense for these companies to go below 1, but having said that, It didn't make sense for the Grayscale Trust, Bitcoin Trust, to go below 1, and it went down. It got down to a 49% discount. It was trading at almost 50 cents on the dollar for the amount of Bitcoin that they held. So, that went, and that's the conversation I had a half a year ago when I sold all my Microstrategy. So this trade isn't what it used to be, but I'm still, so on the April 23rd, that's now 212 days ago, I sold all my Microstrategy at $349. That was my break even. So I got back and I got out. It's down 51%. This was not from its peak. It got to $543. This is just from when I got out. So had I left that money sitting in there or dollar cost averaged in, I'd be down 51%. Instead, I put it mostly in IREN and Hive and a little bit in Riot. And you can see I'm up 350% instead of down 50%. Now, the other way to look at this is I was up 650% a month ago. So, if you want to be a glasses half empty person, I'm up a heck of a lot less than I was a month ago. But I'll take being up 349.6% instead of being down 51%. That's a very significant change for a portfolio. That's why I'm saying, you got to judge. You can't just, what most people do, and everybody's guilty of it, their portfolio gets up to a certain number, and then that becomes the new standard. It's like, oh, if I'm below that number, I'm failing. It's like, no, there's peaks, there's troughs. This is a long-term game. There's definitely a lot of people not loving Bitcoin right now. Thank you, General Properties.
I advise everybody to read Michael Saylor's response from the, I guess it's called MSCI. It's on X, and talking about, how they're all Bitcoin and they haven't changed their thesis.
You want me to read a little? Because that's in the article I got.
Oh, you got that? Yeah. It's interesting read.
So again, this was JP Morgan warning that Morgan Stanley was going to start to exclude them. There's no evidence of this. This hasn't happened. JP Morgan warns as MSCI decision could force strategy out of major equity indexes. Well, you know what? A lot of things could happen. I try not to think about it. Michael Saylor insists Strategy is an operating company with a substantial software business, not a passive Bitcoin vehicle. So that would be the disqualifier. And again, this doesn't mean they would have to sell their Bitcoin, or they can't tell MicroStrategy to do anything. What they can do is drop them out of their index. And this index is used for a lot of ETFs from a lot of other companies. So it's kind of an industry standard type of a thing here. But here's the deal. Am I wrong? Isn't MicroStrategy in the NASDAQ right now? Answer that one myself. Yes. December 20th, 2024. On Monday, MicroStrategy will be included in the NASDAQ 100. So here's the thing. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that MSCI decides to drop them. Still, the Qs they're not, the Qs aren't going to get rid of them. Right? They don't dictate who's in the NASDAQ. The Qs are proportional in nature to the NASDAQ 100. So MicroStrategy's in the Qs. We thought MicroStrategy was going to get in the S&P 500 a couple of months ago. They've got another swing coming up at the plate next month. I think they will get in sooner than later. This is a significant company, but here's, before they go get into the S&P 500, everybody's going to panic and sell them because they think the MSCI is going to force them out of their index. And so I think this is nonsense. Saylor highlights $7.7 billion in digital credit offerings this year, arguing no fund or trust could replicate the company's structure or strategy. As strategy shares price continues to slide, Executive Chairman Michael Saylor has felt compelled to address growing investor concern for the second time in 2 weeks. Last Friday, Saylor dismissed rumors that the company was selling Bitcoin, stating there was no truth to the rumors. And I will show you when they did disclose they weren't selling Bitcoin. They bought 8,000 Bitcoin. That's the most they've bought in months and months. The last time they had a week where they bought 8,000 Bitcoin or more was in July. So, and you can see it was down in the hundreds every week. There was a couple of weeks that were zero. So they bought 8,178 last week. I'm predicting they buy more than 10,000 this week that just ended. They got in at an average cost of 102,000 last week on these 8,000, and they're going to get it at an average cost a lot lower than that on whatever they bought this week. So that's just my guess.
Tom, if they did have to sell, I mean, that's not even like, is it even realistic?
The thing is, the way that their debt is structured, I don't even know what the scenario would be, but it's in the unbelievably highly unlikely scenario where they would ever be forced to start liquidating their Bitcoin, because they have 4 or 5 different types of preferred stock, none of which is secured by Bitcoin, right? Here's what happens. Some other companies, they borrowed money, they had loans, and they secured them with their Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin gets under a certain number, your loan to value is no good, and you got to sell your Bitcoin. But that's not how MicroStrategy is doing this. So that's just not going to happen unless something catastrophic happens to cryptocurrency.
I'm just going to tell you, you guys did not cheer me up any.
No.
You guys heard. This hurt. It might get to 80-20, though, with the crypto market double before the end of the year to 5.8 trillion. And
it made a comeback. It was at 0, George. So.
Yeah, I know.
And so not through a few votes.
But here's why I've turned, I don't know if I'm no longer bearish on Bitcoin, and that's because I'm the inverse of Jim Cramer. You know what I mean?
I think there's actually an ETF that's inverse Jim Cramer. And Michael Anthony's asking me, did you hear what Tom Lee said on Thursday? No, I did not hear what he said on Thursday. See if I can bring up some quick Tom Lee news and see if all right, I'm looking at an article that says Tom Lee said that Bitcoin's $83,000 price drop was caused by a software glitch and manipulation. I don't know if that's the one you guys are talking about. Here, 13 hours ago, Permabull Tom Lee sees Bitcoin as high as $200,000 by the end of January. That
He didn't move it back too far.
He moved it back 1 month. That's 200,000. So he thinks we're going to go from 80 to 200,000 between now and January 31st. Reading this to myself here. Digital asset prices have been pressured by a hawkish Fed. Tom Lee, the chairman of Ethereum treasury firm Bitmine, said October 10th liquidation event, which wiped out billions, might have burned deep holes in market makers' balance sheets. So that's what I really want to find, and I'm going to give one more try to find this. There was some...
Oh, it might get to 80-20. Should I wait?
Yeah, keep it open.
I got to go in a few minutes.
Here, AI and high-performance Bitcoin miners surge pre-market. So this came out yesterday. So this was a fake out following stellar NVIDIA earnings. So NVIDIA, they crushed it. Immediately after hours, they were up. All the Bitcoin miners were up big time, or I can call them the high-performance computing stocks, whatever you want to call them. They all opened way up yesterday morning, and then they all tanked. So it was a big rug pull. You can see at the time of when this was being written yesterday, and somebody must have, it was published at 7:13 a.m. So in pre-market, IREN was up 8%. They were at $50. IREN right now is at $42. They're down 16% from where they were in pre-market yesterday. That's not rational. That's on the news. That's on NVIDIA's news that they can't even make the chips fast enough. The demand is so high. They're sold out. And they're ramping up production. And they're beating their sales number. They're beating their profit number. And they're raising their forecast for the next quarter. So on that news, ultimately, all the Bitcoin miners tanked. Or should I say, all the high-performance computing stocks tanked. Because that's really the direct correlation there. So there's just no sense to it. So right, this is not based on fundamentals. This is not based on... It certainly wasn't based on any of their earnings reports, which were all really good. NVIDIA beating Q3 expectations and providing strong Q4 outlook. So, and this is the big dog. This is the biggest company in the world by market cap. So if we look, and at one point they did touch $5 trillion. They are now $4.3 trillion. Microsoft and Apple both got over $4 trillion as well, but Microsoft is now down to 3.5, and this was like 3 weeks ago. This was not a year ago.
No, we've been talking about the whole time.
Yeah, and I just, to me, I think that I'll believe it when I see it. That's all I can say. We read through the article. Michael Saylor came out and said it's not true. I just don't even think that's how it works. But even if
it is a good way, to get Bitcoin way down. It'd be awesome.
He's not going to sell any Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is not selling any Bitcoin. They can kick them out of all the ETFs that they want. or all the funds, right? There, a lot of funds, I'm sure, hold that stock. So if they all sell them, it will create a massive amount of selling pressure. Their stock will go down. But here's the thing. They have 650,000 Bitcoin.
I mean,
there's value.
That would be like a gift, Tom.
Right. The value's there. It exists. It's tangible. So
what a gift.
In that it's intangible, but so if this thing gets wrecked, and that I'm even looking at it at 170 going here. I'm looking at this at 170 going, their 52-week range was 543, and today was their low. They got down to 166.32 today from a high of 543. So this stock has taken its beating.
I'm going to call this poll because that's 80-20 to me.
You got it.
I'm out. I'll see you guys because I need to go drink, even though I don't.
You don't even drink.
I'll see you guys.
Have a good night, George. All right, so yeah, I didn't buy any of this. I looked at options, but the options are all of the Bitcoin mining stocks, all of the crypto treasury stocks. The options are trading at a massive premium right now. So I'm being extremely selective about buying options. I did buy some Bitfarms options because those are always, everybody hates Bitfarms. So those are always have much less of a premium built in. The in the monies were in the money for next month was like $35 for a call. So I'm not doing that. That's too much. And I certainly wouldn't do next month anyway. That's not. And is BMNR, Bitmine, a buy since Tom Lee is chairman that said the company keeps buying but can buy shares? Can you trust Tom Lee? I mean, I don't know. Everybody will have to decide that for themselves. What I will tell you, I like him. He seems like an extremely likable guy. He's an upbeat guy. He's basically bullish all the time. He was a Bitcoin bull, huge. And he actually opens a company and goes all in. I mean, he's got billions and billions and billions of dollars. He's got over 3 million Ethereum in their company. So they're an Ethereum treasury company. And they're all in. And they just bought all of this. They're a new company. So if you look, they really just started trading in July. They got all the way up to $138. They're at $26. This was for a very brief period of time. When these things open, they go ballistic and then everybody loses all their money. And then eventually I do think this will turn around and go up. But this is now at a market cap of $7.4 billion. And let's see how many Bitcoin do they own. Or sorry, Ethereum. Okay, so they own $11.1 billion. worth of Ethereum. They own 3,559,879 Ethereum. So, I don't know. I'm tending to stay away from these because, and I'll tell you why. I think there's a lot of upside to these. I think these have all been, they were all overbought. Now they're all oversold. Let's go look at the chart and see if they're literally oversold. So they are. On the 1-day time frame, they are at 28 on the daily RSI. So you can see, right, they must have been a different company that did next to nothing like Microstrategy, and then they merged and went all in as a treasury company for Ethereum. So, but you can see they've gotten themselves all the way to oversold. They've been in a bearish crossover for a month. So I don't know. When's a good time to buy this? Who knows? Obviously, one of the factors will be how does Ethereum do? Tom Lee is extremely bullish. He may have said something bearish yesterday, but the two articles I just saw were both within the last 13 hours. He called for Bitcoin 200,000 by January 31st. That's 2.5 months from now. So I will say he's usually overly optimistic. But it doesn't mean that he's wrong long term. He's usually just early. So yeah, they have not slowed down their buying of Ethereum. And you can see, this is right on MicroStrategy's page. They tell you every week, they put out a press release and they keep a running tally of the Bitcoin that they buy week by week by week by week. They bought 8,000 last week. I think they're going to beat that this week. This week's over, so whatever they've done, they've done. They will usually put out a press release Monday night or Tuesday to tell us what they did in the previous week, and I think it's going to be a lot of Bitcoin that they bought. They have just under 650,000 Bitcoin, so, they're in first place. The second largest Bitcoin holder publicly traded is Marathon with 53,000. So you go from 650,000 to 53,000. That's how much of a drop off. So when Michael Saylor is saying no one else is able to scale up to this level, nobody is in their neighborhood at all. And there's plenty of companies out there that are treasurying either Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana. There's some companies that are doing XRP. So there's a bunch of these companies out there, but all of them put together don't scale up to this. Now, Tom Lee's company is getting rather large. So it's probably the second largest, but it's significantly smaller than this. I just want to go to the year to date because we didn't really look at this. So this chart used to look an awful lot better. This is the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin year to date. 2023, Bitcoin was up over 100% on the year. 2024, Bitcoin was up over 100% on the year. 2025, as of November 21st, Bitcoin is down 10% on the year. It's down 32% from its highs of a month ago. So this year is not like the last 2 years. In the 4-year cycle, by the way, for those of you following the 4-year cycle and want to say that it's the law, this is the year and these were the months that Bitcoin should have exploded. So they didn't. So we know whatever's happening right now is not mirroring the previous cycles. You may think it's because it's a lot worse. I think it's because it's extended. We haven't gotten to a lot of the key fundamentals. We haven't gotten lower interest rates. We haven't gotten, every single halving has been in a basically zero interest rate environment with quantitative easing. And, occasionally in the US, the government just mailing everybody a check. An awful lot of which went into a gigantic bubble in the small cap stocks back in 2020 around the previous halving, because September of 2020 is when Bitcoin started to take off. A little over a year later, it peaked. So that didn't happen this time, right? We're more than 4 years past the previous blow off top for Bitcoin. We didn't get it. But I don't think that's because we're not going to get it. I just think everything is extended because the environment, the geopolitical environment, the economic environment, it's all very different than it ever has been at this point in the Bitcoin cycle. But I think so we're having a pullback. You know, you could call this a bear market here for a few months, but I think we've still got a lot of upside left. I don't think Bitcoin's done doing what it's going to do. But what I want to show you in specific, so we got a broad range here. IREN's still up 330% for the year. CIFR's up over 200%. TeraWolf is almost exactly a double on the year. But BitDeer's down 53%. That's why I've been dollar cost averaging into BitDeer and Marathon. And with Marathon, they're down 40% in 2025. They were down 29% in 2024. This company was worth more in 2023 when it was at 8 exahash than it is now in 2025 when it's at 60 exahash and diversifying into high performance computing. So they have beaten this stock down for 2 full years longer than the rest of the Bitcoin miners. And I don't think it's because this company is a failure. They have a strong balance sheet and they have ties with a lot of partners, a lot of joint ventures. I don't think they're the best company on the board by any means, but I don't think they deserve to be down in a year where Bitcoin was up 122%. Marathon was down 29% last year. And now they're down 40% on top of the 29%. So take from that what you will. All right, let's see where Bitcoin is, and then it's time to have our weekend. So we're hanging out just under this 85. This line, we'll see what happens. This is my last line. I just drew this today. We hit a new low, so I put that, that's a minor line. But if you look, my next real line is at 73,800. So if this doesn't hold and we got to go test that, then we could be in for another 13% pullback from here, possibly. Who knows? We'll see. So that's it. Go Bitcoin. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Thanks so much for joining the stream. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, feel free to subscribe. We're here every Friday after the market closes, and we're here every Tuesday after the market closes for members. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see the members next Tuesday.